Gabriel, it's not about your numbers, Ellen said, her tone as polished as the walnut conference table between us. It's about vision. We need more agile thinkers who can chase scale. She slid the envelope toward me. No emotion, just clean execution. Inside, I already knew. Termination papers. I didn't argue. Didn't flinch. I'd seen this coming. Months of subtle erosion had left nothing to chance. My name removed from strategy briefings. Junior staff rerouted to new team leads. A phantom audit of client interactions. Even my corner office relocated for restructuring. My name is Gabriel Knox, age 48. For nearly a decade, I was the senior portfolio strategist at Montera and Black, one of the most reputable private investment advisory firms in the Southeast. I'd joined them when they were still leasing half a floor in uptown Charlotte. I brought with me not just financial acumen but trust, the kind of trust that couldn't be built with logos or slogans. It took years of Sunday calls, quiet family sacrifices, and walking clients through crises that didn't make the headlines. I'd managed over $350 million in client assets, with a renewal rate above 92%, a statistic marketing used in every pitch deck they built, until recently. Ellen Raines had joined Montera and Black 7 months ago, parachuted in from a national firm to reinvigorate growth. She wore theory, blended suits, and had a penchant for management jargon that made old-school partners bristle. But she moved fast. She replaced our commission tiers with a bonus model tied to team impact. Suddenly, my take-home shrank by 18%, despite my portfolio outperforming the benchmark. I adjusted. Or thought I did. What I didn't realize was that Ellen wasn't here to grow what we had. She was here to unhook it, repurpose it, strip away relationships and attach numbers to the brand, not the people. Now, here I was, box of personal items beside me, photos of my wife Melissa and our 2 sons, a custom mug that said Finance Whisperer, and a leather folio I'd never trusted to the company drive. Just habit, I guess. I appreciate the clarity, I told Ellen. I stood, shook her hand. Her grip was as cold as her tone. The elevator ride down felt longer than it should have. I shared the space with Jeffrey Lang, our tech VP, who barely made eye contact. Leaving early today? He asked, eyes still on his phone. Something like that. Outside, Charlotte's skyline gleamed in the late afternoon. I walked to my car in silence. No music, no news radio. Just the hum of a man shedding 9 years of his life in a single afternoon. When I got home, the house was quiet. Melissa was in Asheville for a conference. I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat at the kitchen island. My phone buzzed. A text from Ava Choi, a high-net-worth client I'd managed for 7 years. Dinner on Friday still good? She didn't know yet. None of them did. And Ellen? She had no idea that with one signature, she'd severed the cord connecting Montera and Black to over 1/3 of its managed capital. I set my glass down and opened my laptop. My termination was personal. And now, the aftermath would be professional. The next morning, I woke without an alarm for the first time in years. No urgent inbox, no 7 a.m. prep call. Just silence and the strange calm that follows when the ship you'd steered for nearly a decade has sailed without you. I sat on the porch with a black notebook in my hands. No logo, no branding, just a moleskin I'd used over the years to jot notes after client meetings. Not numbers, people. Names of children, favorite charities, anniversaries. That was the difference. Relationships, not revenue. In the business, they call it sticky capital, money that stays because of bonds built over time. But firms like Montera and Black had started to believe the clients were loyal to the firm, not the human beings holding their hand through market crashes and health scares. They were wrong. I scrolled through my personal contacts. Not the sanitized list on my work phone, now disabled and boxed. My private list, the one I built outside systems, with cell numbers, birthdays, and quiet reminders like, send sympathy, note mother passed, Novi 2021. Or, ask about Ava's Sun Scholarship results due May. I hadn't taken data. I'd taken relationships, and you can't copyright trust. That afternoon, I got a call from Marianne Connors, director of the Drayton Schools Trust. She'd heard through the grapevine. I assume you're no longer at MB, she said dryly. I'm not. They reached out already. Some girl with a title and no clue. Asked how we calculate our risk horizon. I chuckled. Did you tell her? Number I told her to wait until I speak to Gabriel Knox. Then hung up. I appreciate that. She paused. Wherever you go next, let me know. This trust follows stewardship, not structure. I added her name to a list I was building, not a client list, a loyalty map. By 4 p.m., I'd received 2 emails from clients titled, "Checking in," which was code for, "We heard. What now?" At 5:30, I saw the firm had posted a press release. Montera and Black welcome strategic realignment in private wealth division. My name wasn't mentioned. Neither was the quiet churn happening behind the curtain. I walked into the study and opened a new Word document, title, Transition Strategy Phase 1. It had one sentence at the top. No calls tonight. Make 3 tomorrow. Just 3. No complaints. No bitterness. Just the truth. And when the truth comes from someone you trust, it moves faster than any campaign. I woke early, made coffee, and opened the notebook I'd been keeping privately for years. A simple black moleskine, but inside, every page represented a relationship, not a number. The plan didn't require drama or vengeance, just precision. I was going to make 3 calls. Not to burn bridges, but to be the first voice they heard before the news reached them from somewhere else. The first call was to Ava Choi. Her family trust had been with me for over a decade, long before Montera and Black had even opened its second office. She picked up after 2 rings. "Gabriel," she said warmly. "I was just about to message you. Friday's still good?" I paused for half a breath. "I won't be there, Ava. I'm no longer with Montera and Black." Silence. I imagined her blinking, reorienting. "What do you mean?" "As of yesterday morning, I've been let go. Strategic restructuring. I wanted you to hear it from me." A longer silence. "And who's handling our account now?" "Lila Vasquez, most likely. Ellen Raines may reach out herself. She doesn't know our risk profile. Layla barely knew our philanthropic wing existed." "I understand." Ava exhaled. "What are you doing next?" "I haven't made a decision yet, but I'll let you know when I do." "Do. Please do. We work with people, Gabriel, not logos." I ended the call gently. No push, no ask. Just a clear, honest communication. The ripple would begin. The second call was to Marlon Vance, CFO of Albright Holdings. Albright was a powerhouse in clean energy infrastructure, and Marlon, despite his clipped New England tone, had a memory like a banker and the instincts of a boxer. He took the call while walking his dog, wind brushing across the line. "Marlon, it's Gabriel." "Hey, Knox. What's up?" "Wanted to let you know personally, I'm no longer with Montera and Black." He stopped walking. I could hear it. "You're joking." "Afraid not. It wasn't my call." "What the hell happened?" "New direction. New leadership. You can read between the lines." "Jesus. Who's taking your place?" "I don't know. Maybe Layla." He muttered a curse. "We're up for review next quarter." I remember. He didn't say anything for a few beats then. "You thinking of going somewhere else?" "I might, but I haven't signed anything." "Wherever you land, keep us in mind. We're loyal to the ones who show up." Another subtle but solid bridge remained standing. The third call was to Marianne Connors, director of the Drayton Schools Trust. She was sharp, old school, ran the trust like a general with a clipboard. She appreciated clarity above all else. She answered on the first ring. "I wondered when I'd hear from you. The moment Ellen showed up, I knew there'd be casualties." "Well, here we are," I said with a faint laugh. "Is she replacing you with that app, Happy Girl?" "Likely. That child didn't know how to structure a staggered release for scholarships. How the hell would she manage a $9 million education portfolio?" I let her vent. She needed it. "I appreciate the heads up," she finally said. "Keep me posted. We follow people, not firms." That line rang familiar. By noon, I had 3 conversations in my corner. No pitches, no complaints, just information and trust. And that trust, once placed, rarely moved easily. By 2 p.m., my personal phone began buzzing more frequently. Ava had spoken to a peer at an industry foundation. Marlon had reached out to a colleague at Greenridge Partners. My name was circulating, and not because I asked for it. The industry was doing the work for me. At 3:17 p.m., a call from Montera and Black's main switchboard came through. I ignored it. A voicemail followed it was Charles Eldridge. "Gabriel, we're hearing some unsettling things. Clients are calling. Ellen wants to get ahead of this. Let's talk. Please." I didn't return the call. At 4:45, I received an email from Layla. "Hi, Gabriel. I understand you've moved on. If you're willing, I'd love to connect for a handoff of the Choi portfolio." I didn't reply. She hadn't earned the right. By the end of the day, my old firm had gone from smug to spooked. All from 3 phone calls, no sales pitch, no strategy deck. Just proof that trust isn't bought, it's built. That night, I poured a second glass of bourbon and opened a new document on my laptop. Title: Transition Strategy, Pace Ketu. I didn't need revenge. I had leverage, and I was only just getting started. Charlotte wore a gray sky that morning, one of those soft, humid southern mornings that felt like the air had forgotten how to move. But for once, I didn't feel suffocated. It had been 4 days since my final departure from Montera and Black, and in that time, I'd made precisely 3 calls to Ava Choi, Marlon Vance, and Marianne Connors. The echoes of those conversations had begun to ripple through the corridors of the wealth management world. Not because I'd asked for anything, but because when something stable breaks, people talk. Now, as I stepped into the quiet co-working office I'd temporarily rented on Tryon Street, I could feel that break widening. The silence in that empty room was not peace, it was the quiet hum of potential. I didn't sit. I began pacing, thinking. There were 2 paths forward. Accept one of the half-dozen offers trickling in from rival firms and slide into someone else's structure, or I build something of my own. At 9:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Ava. Gabriel, call me when you can. The foundation board wants to meet with you. And another, 2 minutes later, from Marlon. Crisis averted. Ellen just tried to pitch us with a junior associate who called me Martin. Good God. I smiled. The walls were wobbling. I called Ava first. She picked up immediately. We had an emergency board session last night, she said, skipping pleasantries. There was concern about the transition, and questions. Understandable. I told them we'd likely move with you, but we want to hear what your next steps are first. Any formal affiliation yet? Not yet, I said truthfully, but I'm considering several. Would you ever consider starting your own? There it was. I might, I said, but I wouldn't do it recklessly. Gabriel, she said, what we care about isn't brand or footprint. It's continuity. It's the fact that when I text you about a shift in asset priority, you know not to route that through 6 layers. You reply at midnight. That matters more than anything. I made a note on the legal pad beside me. Continuity equals currency. After we hung up, I stared out the window. Cars buzzed down Tryon Street. Pedestrians moved in half-step rhythms, all following their routine. And here I was, finally out of mine. At 10:11 a.m., I called Michael Thorpe. We'd met twice at conferences, exchanged cards, and shared a tense game of golf 3 summers ago. Thorpe was managing partner at Cortland Equity, a boutique capital firm that backed independent wealth startups with high client retention scores. He answered quickly. Gabriel, word travels fast. I didn't start it. You didn't need to. Some things ignite themselves. We agreed to meet at Latte and Ledger, a cafe that had become neutral territory for high-stakes financial conversations. At 11:03 a.m., I walked in to find Thorpe already seated, sipping espresso like it was ritual. He motioned to the chair across from him. I've already spoken with a few of your former clients, he said. 2 said the same thing. They'll follow you, as long as it's you calling the shots. I didn't respond immediately. He continued. We could back you. Initial seed capital. Equity split. Build lean, build smart. You handle client acquisition. I'll handle ops and compliance. What kind of control are we talking about? I asked. Full, he said. You name the firm. You lead the hiring. You keep client relationships on your terms. We take minority stake, and we get out of the way. I stirred my coffee without sipping it. The idea wasn't foreign. I'd entertained it in long drives and idle moments over the past decade. But now, the door was real. Open. I'll need 2 weeks, I said. There's due diligence, and I won't move without knowing who's coming with me. Take 1 week, he countered. This moment has a window. We shook hands. That afternoon, I began assembling the skeleton. Not a team, not yet. Just names. People I trusted. People I'd worked with in a dozen different ways over the years. At the top of the list was Dana Shields, former head of operations at Cranston Sachs. I'd worked with Dana indirectly on a regional philanthropic fund. She ran operations like a surgeon calm, clinical, efficient. I called her at 3:20 p.m. Gabriel Knox. It's been a while. Too long, I said. I might be building something. If I do, I need someone who can architect a system from scratch: compliance, onboarding, custodian negotiation, the works. I'm freelancing now, she said. But I'm in. I've been waiting for someone to do this the right way. Next was Rafi Madavi, a quiet analyst I mentored 6 years ago. Back then, Rafi was fresh out of MIT, too green to trust his own instincts, but brilliant when allowed to stretch. He was now wasting away in middle-tier management at a legacy firm. Would you consider a jump? I asked him. He laughed. I've been waiting for your call since Monday. By 6 p.m., I had 3 confirmed yeses. No contracts, no pay scales, just alignment. That night, I sat down with Melissa over dinner and told her everything. Does this scare you? I asked. It excites me, she said. You've been giving 12-hour days to a company that wouldn't even blink firing you over lunch. Maybe it's time you gave those hours to yourself. I nodded. Later that evening, I opened my laptop and created a folder titled True North Advisory. Inside, I built 3 documents. Mission statement, preliminary client roster, launch budget, draft 1. It wasn't fantasy. It was blueprint. The following morning, Marianne Connors called. I just spoke to a board member from Albright Holdings, she said. They're watching how you move. If you go independent, they want in. I haven't finalized anything. Doesn't matter. You have gravity, Gabriel. Some people orbit naturally. The word stayed with me all day. At 11:45 a.m., I received a letter from Montera and Black's legal counsel, reminding me of continuing responsibilities regarding proprietary data. I sent it to my own attorney, Diana Lee, who called 20 minutes later. They're bluffing, she said. You've used no data. You haven't solicited. You're protected. Keep every communication above board and documented. Understood. By 2 p.m., I had a call with Thorpe again. He was ready to draft term sheets. I've already secured provisional registration, he told me. If you give the word, we can have your entity filed by Friday. I'll give the word Thursday, I said. I just need one more confirmation. That night, I made one last call to William Knox, my father, retired Army colonel. Didn't understand finance, but understood loyalty. I've got a chance to build my own firm, I said. He was silent a moment. Then, about time you stopped wearing another man's patch. Thursday came quickly. At 8:30 a.m., I drove out to the edge of Charlotte's South Park district and pulled into a 2-story brick office building with a for lease sign hanging modestly out front, not glass and chrome. Not marble lobbies or fingerprint scanners, but it had potential and, more importantly, privacy. The leasing agent, a wiry man named Benjamin, met me at the front door. We've had tech startups sniff around, he said as we walked the perimeter. But the space is still available. 8 offices, 2 conference rooms, open bullpen. What's the lease term? I asked. 5 years standard, but we can do 3, with extension options. Put it on hold, I said. We'll talk terms Monday. By 10 a.m., I had Thorpe on the phone. File the entity, I told him. We're moving forward. Name? True North Advisory. There was a pause then. Simple, clean, strong. We'll need the custodian relationship by next week, I added. And I want Dana overseeing onboarding systems before client notices go out. It's already in motion. Click. It was done. The first real step. By noon, I had a temporary logo, a working website landing page, and a P.O. box registered in the business district. No one needed to know how small the start was. What mattered was what came next. At 1:32 p.m., I got an unexpected email from Ellen Rains. Gabriel heard some news. I'd appreciate a conversation if you're open. There's still a path to constructive transition. You know I respected your work. I didn't respond. At 3:10 p.m., Dana sent me a Slack invite to the new internal team workspace. 3 channels were already active: compliance tasks, Chrome research, and brand voice. This was happening. Not an idea anymore. A firm. By the end of the workday, 5 clients had reached out to schedule exploratory meetings. They didn't say it, but I knew what they meant. If I'm doing this, they're coming with me. No threats. No poaching. Just the silent pull of something real. I called Melissa on the way home. How do you feel? She asked. Like I'm finally walking the road I was supposed to build. That evening, I sat on the porch with a bourbon in hand and a stack of client index cards I'd built over the years. Each card was handwritten, just a habit I picked up when tech failed me too many times on the road. I sorted them into 3 stacks. Definite movers. Likely. Conversations. Stay behinds. The smallest stack was the last one. Friday morning, I sent out the first wave of notices, not marketing, not pitches. Just personal messages. Dear name, I wanted you to hear this from me directly. As of this week, I've launched a new independent advisory firm called True North Advisory. You've been a valued part of my career for many years, and while there's no obligation of any kind, I wanted you to know where I've landed. If you'd ever like to connect, I'm here. That was it. No ask, no link to a product page, no banner ad, just clarity. By noon, 6 meetings were booked for the following week. At 2 p.m., a courier arrived at my home office with a thick white envelope. Cease and desist from Montera and Black. I didn't even open it before forwarding it to Diana Lee, who called 20 minutes later, exasperated. They've got nothing, she said. They're panicking. Let them. That evening, Thorpe invited me for dinner at a private rooftop spot above the Mint Museum. He brought wine. I brought updates. 3 of your biggest clients have confirmed interest, he said. The moment you announce formally, it'll be a floodgate. I know. You're about to become a case study, he said. I'm not trying to prove anything, I told him. Just trying to build something that isn't built on bullshit. He laughed. That's what makes it worth proving. As I drove home, the city lights stretching along I-277 felt different. Not like markers of the life I'd lost, but waypoints in the one I was designing. And that night, as I stood by the window of my study, I saw Montera and Black's tower in the distance. It was just a building. Glass, steel, and fear masquerading as legacy. They'd fired a man who held their foundation together, and now that foundation was on the move. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a war. I had gravity, and the center of it all was finally mine to define. Monday morning arrived with a different kind of urgency. The silence of the early hours was broken by the low thrum of focus. My desk was now a war room, folders aligned, a timeline taped to the wall, and a digital whiteboard filling with tasks and triggers. True North Advisory was no longer a concept, it was operational. By 7:45 a.m., Dana had sent a fully formatted onboarding process draft, legal compliance procedures, and even a script for client service reps we hadn't hired yet. Rafi followed with updated analytics reports on performance tracking tools. They were working like this had been in motion for months, not days. Then, the first real blow landed. At 8:22 a.m., Montera and Black filed a temporary injunction request with Mecklenburg County Superior Court, alleging improper retention of intellectual property and active solicitation of firm clients. It was a tactic blunt and noisy. I didn't panic. I forwarded the document to Diana Lee. At 9:10 a.m., she called, clearly more amused than concerned. Classic scare play, she said. No names, no actual evidence, just trying to get a restraining order to stop you from operating long enough to bleed you. Will it hold? Not for a second, but we'll have to appear in court Wednesday. I'll be there. While Diana prepared the response, I turned my attention to what truly mattered. The clients. 3 new onboarding meetings were scheduled for the day Ava Choi's foundation, Albright Holdings, and a third wild card, Gideon Press, a mid-sized publishing firm whose CFO had been introduced to me by Ava's brother-in-law. I didn't know Gideon well, but they'd heard about the move and reached out proactively. My first meeting was at 10 a.m. with Ava and her board. Dana and I joined from the new office still without furniture, but it didn't matter. They weren't looking for polish. They were looking for clarity. Tell us why we should follow you, asked board member Patrick Ellis, a silver-haired former litigator with a habit of folding his hands like a judge about to issue a ruling. I spoke plainly. Because I won't delegate your foundation to a junior associate after 10 years of personal stewardship. Because when markets shift, I won't send a newsletter, I'll call. And because I've built this firm to keep the trust intact, not to monetize it with cross-sell metrics and sales pressure. Ava nodded once. Ellis scribbled something. An hour later, I had signed $42 million in assets under management for immediate transfer. At 11:30 a.m., Marlon Vance arrived. No suit, just a blue button-down and his usual dry candor. You got walls, he said, glancing around the room. That's progress. We didn't waste time. Dana had prepped all documentation. By noon, Albright Holdings had initiated a formal transition of $61 million in renewable energy assets to True North. Any fallout from Montera? He asked as we shook hands. They filed an injunction this morning. He chuckled. Desperation suits them poorly. By 1:30 p.m., I was on a video call with Gideon Press's CFO, Felicia Gant. She was direct, sharp-eyed, with a posture like she'd once taught high school debate. Truthfully, she said, we're here because Ava said you're the only person who actually called her after her mother passed away. That stuck. Empathy is undervalued in this industry, I replied. She nodded slowly. We're with you. Let's get it done. That brought our AUM to $127 million in 72 hours. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Julia Halversenmi, former executive assistant at Montera. They're unraveling fast. Ellen's in meetings all day. Compliance is trying to find dirt. Charles pulled the IT logs. They're scrambling, Gabriel. I replied simply, tell them I never took anything. I didn't have to. At 5 p.m., Diana called with an update. They're shifting tactics, she said. I received a settlement offer from Montera's counsel. They're willing to drop all legal action if you sign a non-solicitation clause going forward. They also want a public statement clarifying that clients left of their own accord. I laughed. They want me to pretend I didn't build what I built. Essentially, decline, and tell them to prepare for Wednesday. I ended the day with Melissa on the patio, watching the sky darken to indigo. This feels different, she said. It is. You're smiling. Because I'm not chasing approval anymore. She clinked her glass gently against mine. Then whatever happens next, it's already worth it. Wednesday, Kurtrumstere B, Mecklenburg County. I sat quietly beside Diana as Montera and Black's legal team tried to convince a judge that my existence was commercial sabotage. They showed no proof, only timelines, innuendo, and vague concerns. When it was our turn, Diana stood calmly and handed over her folder. We have email records, call logs, and affidavits confirming no solicitation occurred. Every client moved voluntarily, and most had pre-existing grievances with Montera's new direction. The judge looked unimpressed with Montera's case. By the end of the session, the injunction was denied. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Just one asked a question loud enough to stick. Mr. Knox, do you have any comment about the accusations? I paused. I think the work speaks for itself. People follow clarity. They always have. Friday, 1 week later. True North Advisory crossed $185 million AUM. By now, the industry was watching. Finance blogs ran headlines like, "The Quiet Revolt of Gabriel Knox. Trust over branding. The True North Model. Montera and Black's mass exodus continues." Thorpe couldn't hide his excitement. "This isn't just a firm," he told me. "This is a movement." I wasn't sure I wanted a movement, but I did want permanence. That afternoon, a surprise arrived. A hand-written envelope from Charles Eldridge, Montera's senior partner. Inside, "Gabriel, I was never part of the decision to let you go, but I let it happen. For that, I owe you an apology. If you ever want to sit down, I'm available." I folded the note, placed it in my drawer, and didn't answer. Not yet. At 6 p.m., I walked into our new office this time with fresh desks, new paint, and a sign above the reception. True North Advisory. Clarity, continuity, commitment. I stood alone in the lobby for a moment, and in the silence, I understood something I hadn't before. They hadn't just fired me. They'd freed me. 6 months later, I walked into the glass-wrapped corner office of True North Advisory's new headquarters. 12 floors above the heart of Charlotte's Second Ward, the view stretched out in every direction: the skyline, the freeway, and the rising outlines of buildings under construction. The future in steel and concrete. My name was on the door now. Not printed. Etched. Below it, Managing Partner. A title I never chased, but had earned the hard way. On my desk sat a manila folder. I had marked, Partner Onboarding, Final. Inside were 3 contracts. 2 client relationship managers, and 1 junior partner from a legacy firm who had walked away from a promotion to join us instead. Each one had a clause I'd insisted on: profit sharing, autonomy, and relationship protection. No one here would ever find their work reduced to a decimal in a quarterly spreadsheet. No one would be discarded in the name of strategic realignment. This was the firm I had always wanted to work for. By now, True North managed just shy of $370 million in client assets. Our client retention rate? 98%. Not because we were the most aggressive. Not because we had the shiniest portfolio tools, but because we made people feel seen, heard, understood. The financial press had given us names: the loyalty firm, the anti-monolith, even the revolt boutique. But the name that mattered most was the one I'd chosen myself: True North. A quiet compass in a world of noisy compasses. At 10:30 a.m., we had a full team meeting. Dana presented ops updates, Rafi showed client impact analytics, and 2 of our newer advisors shared a case study where a multi-generational family fund had doubled their philanthropic output without increasing risk. As they spoke, I looked around the table. Every person here had once been overlooked, undersupported, or boxed in. Now they were thriving, because the system was designed to serve them, not control them. At the end of the meeting, someone asked, "Are we ever going to do advertising?" I smiled. This is our advertising. They laughed, but it was true. After lunch, I checked my email. A subject line stood out. Coffee. Everett Stanton. I hadn't seen that name in nearly 5 months. Everett had been the face of Montera and Black for most of my career there. CEO for 11 years. The one who brought Ellen in. The one who stayed silent when the board restructured half the department. His message was brief. Gabriel, I understand there's no reason for you to say yes, but if you'd be willing to meet, I'd like to apologize properly. No pitch, no spin, just coffee. Everett. I left the message open on my screen for a long time. Then, I closed it. Some things needed to remain unsettled. At 4 p.m., I sat down with Felicia Gant from Gideon Press. We had just completed the rollout of their charitable distribution system, a project that had required dozens of adjustments and late-night calls. Your team was extraordinary, she said. Our board noticed. You've restored something I forgot this industry could have. What's that? Trust. That word again. Simple, yet too often stripped of its weight. As she left, I walked out into the lobby and studied the wall where we displayed our values. Not flashy, not buzzwords. Just a short phrase. We follow people, not policies. And beneath it, built for relationships, not transactions. At 6:10 p.m., I received a call from Julia Halverson. You've seen the news, right? No, I said, walking back into my office. She exhaled. Montera and Black just sold. Veritas acquired them for pennies on the dollar. Half the board is out. Ellen resigned. I sat down. So it's done. Not quite, she added. The firm you built, they're trying to replicate it. They've launched a boutique division called Client Integrity or some nonsense. But no one's buying it. Let them try, I said. Some things you can't imitate. Before we hung up, she said, Thank you, Gabriel. For everything. For showing me what the other side looks like. I didn't answer right away, just smiled. Later that night, Melissa and I drove out to the stadium for our youngest son's high school graduation. I sat in the second row with her, watching him walk across the stage in his black gown, tassel swinging, eyes wide with possibility. 6 months ago, I would have missed this for a dinner with a client's CFO in D.C. Now, nothing could have pulled me away. After the ceremony, our son asked, Are you working tomorrow? No, I said without hesitation. Not tomorrow. We drove home under a warm southern sky, the city lights fading behind us. At the house, Melissa handed me a small package wrapped in craft paper, no bow. Inside was a wooden plaque, engraved with a quote I hadn't read in years. The best revenge is living well. I turned it over. On the back was a small, handwritten note. But the greatest success is building something worth living for. That night, I placed the plaque on my desk at home. Not in triumph, but in stillness. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I was settled. The equation was no longer a variable. I'd found my true north.